characteristics that Ali referred to, Allah enabled his face. Also, the student rebuts any backbiting of his sheikh whenever he's able and leaves that assembly if he's unable to do so.
Yes. Very important, like if people gossip about your teacher, you either rectify them or you leave. You don't stay there. Say, I'm sorry, that's my teacher, don't talk about him. Yes, but, say, look, either you change the subject, either I'm gone. You don't listen. You don't want to hear anything negative. No? The only negative you know about your shaykh is when you have experienced it for yourself. That's the only thing which you can judge by. Judge by or go by. For the rest you can't. Yalla, bismillah.
Entering and exiting the lesson. The student visits his sheikh with most excellent traits, keeping himself tidy with everything we have just mentioned concerning the teacher, cleanliness, regular use of the toothstick.
Don't use the siwak in front of your teacher. Siwak is actually a toothbrush. That's what you're doing. You're brushing your teeth when you use the siwak. This is why Ibn Abdul Bar said, when you use the siwak, put your hand in front of the siwak. And he would dislike people to use the siwak in the mosque because then some of the wooden parts of the siwak might fall down on the ground, and it is disgusting. It's not because it's a sunnah that you are going to do it openly, brushing your teeth in front of the people. Do like this and do it gently. Some people, they prefer the very big siwak and then they are brushing their teeth, making noises, and then they don't practice the sunnah and say, this is sunnah. Well, the sunnah in the siwak is like Aisha radiallahu anha, she would cut the siwak of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam after each prayer. So he would use the siwak, then she would cut it, and then he would use it again. But now it is like you using the same toothbrush without ever washing it. No? So there are bacteria, there's all these other things. Then the siwak starts, to smell, like very soury, smell like clothes that you've washed but that you left in the washing machine for days. That's what this siwak smells like. You say, I'm practicing sunnah. That's not sunnah. The sunnah is to cut the siwak. And you shouldn't put it like in your pocket here, like everybody sees you have a siwak. Be discreet. You're not going to walk with a siwak here, right? With your toothbrush here and, oh, what's that, brother? Well, my toothbrush and my Colgate. You're not going to do this. So you're going to hide it discreetly. No? So it's not because it's sunnah that the way, look, something can be sunnah, but the way we use it and practice it might not be sunnah. So we need to look at these two things. So you are going like this, up, and preferably before the wudu, then when you enter into the mosque, alhamdulillah, it's done. Not right before prayer and these kind of things. Okay, continue.
And a heart free of preoccupying matters. He does not enter without seeking permission when the sheikh is in a place that requires permission. The student greets the attendees upon entering and then singles out his teacher with his greeting. Likewise, he bids farewell to him and the assembly in general.
Like what I try to do whenever I would be sick, I wouldn't not go to the sheikh. I would go and then I would in advance write a letter, a small note. And it would say, Sheikh, I'm very sick. If I raise my finger, that's to ask your permission to go to my home. So I would literally, even if I would have fever, I would go and then I would put it in front of him and I would stay until I knew I can't stay anymore. I would go like this and the Sheikh would know. And then one day I remember it was a Sheikh Salih, yani rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah. He died because of cancer, subhanallah. And his voice was almost gone. Wallah, he was one of the people who taught me to perform the khutbah. He was an Egyptian. And subhanallah, even when his voice was gone and he was weak because of the chemotherapy and so forth, he would still deliver khutbah. And he would talk like this. He said, this is what Allah gave me, I will do it until I die. So he came on the minbar like very skinny, he had lost his beard. If you would have seen him now, and then later on you wouldn't know him, you wouldn't recognize him. This is how far it went. But he kept on delivering khutbah. So anyway, he was the one, when I put the note on his desk and I went like this, and then he stopped his class, and then he said, is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the mosque? He said, take care of my son, it's on me. And his medication is on me. And then he said, this is what we want students to be like. He said, it is because when you give your everything, that knowledge will give you something. And when you give something, knowledge will give you nothing. When you give everything, knowledge will give you something. And when you give something, knowledge will give you nothing. No? So, persevere. The path of knowledge is a very, very long road. But believe me, it's worth it. It's worth it. No, continue.
Likewise, he bids farewell to him and the assembly in general when he departs, just as is related in the hadith. The first greeting is no more deserving than the second. The student does not step over people and sits wherever the assembly's perimeter happens to be, unless
exactly like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam كان يجلس حيثما ينتهي به المجلس. Yani he would just sit there where there was space. He didn't allow people to move or to leave their places for his sake. He would just, there where there was a space, that's there where he would sit. But it's a sunnah to give space. إذا قيل لكم تفسحوا في المجالس فافسحوا يفسح الله لكم. So when you give, when it is said give space, then do so, because then Allah will give you space. And what the meaning of the ayah is, there's ishara and there's dilala. Anyway, let's continue.
Unless the sheikh gives him permission to come forward, or he knows from the behavior of the other student that they prefer it. He does not let someone rise from his place out of deference, and if someone does give him preference, he declines it still, following the example of Ibn Umar. Allah is pleased with him. And
so what some students would do in Jordan, for example, like 1 hour before class, they would already reserve their spaces, but not by remaining there physically, by putting a rucksack or whatever there. That is not correct. Because some people would come early and they would remain there physically, but yet these people who just came to put something there, a siwak or a pen or a book, they would have the first row. So and some people do this also on Jum'ah. In some mosques, they have their fixed space in the row, and that's where they pray and nobody else prays there. That's wrong. There are only 2 fixed places in the mosque. 1 is for the Imam and 2 is for the most knowledgeable, which is right behind the Imam. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that those who need to be behind the Imam are ulin nuha, are the people of knowledge, the people of fiqh, the people of Quran, who stand like right behind the Imam. These 2 places are the only places that have been defined by our Prophet ﷺ. And if you want the merits of the first row, like the dua of the Prophet ﷺ 3 times with mercy for those who pray in the first row, you need to be on time. The same with Jumu'ah and so forth. Yes.
What happens if you do come early and you're there, but then you need to, I don't know, maybe refresh your wudu or something?
No, that's different. Then you can put something on your spot if it's just to make wudu. But if you put it there because you want to sit there, and then you are gone for 2-3 hours and then you come back, that would be wrong. Khayyam, is it possible to have some more coffee?
Yeah, sure.
I can make it myself, but then I can't teach.
I don't want to stop you.
Okay, is that clear? Okay, continue.
Unless his coming forward is in the welfare of those present, or if the sheikh requested him to do so. He does not sit in the middle of the circle except out of necessity. He does not sit between 2 companions except with the permission, and if they do make room for him, he sits and squeezes himself in.
No.
Sitting during the lesson. The student should also have good etiquette. Oh, I don't want to say that. With his companions and those attending the assembly of the sheikh, since this is also having good etiquette with the sheikh and preserves the dignity of his assembly. He sits in the presence of the sheikh in the manner of a student, not that of a teacher.
No.
He does not raise his voice exaggerately, laugh or speak much without need.
Exaggeratedly, no? I don't know, how do you say it, Asim?
Exaggeratedly, yes. Laugh or speak much without need. He does not fidget with his hands or the like. He does not turn right and left without need. Rather, he faces the sheikh, attentive to his words.
No.
A moody sheikh.
I like the way you said the title, that was nice. Say it again.
A moody sheikh. Among the things the student is advised to heed is he not recite to the sheikh while the sheikh's heart is preoccupied or bored, or while he is reluctant, distressed, overjoyed, hungry, thirsty, tired, troubled, or anything that makes it difficult for him or prevents him from having complete presence of heart or from being energetic. The student should take full advantage of the times in which the teacher is energetic. The student's etiquette includes bearing with the sheikh's coarseness and bad aspects of his character, and not being dissuaded from remaining with him and believing in his aptness. The student professes valid excuse for his sheikh's actions and utterances that outwardly seem flawed. Who is incapable of this except for someone with little or no accomplishment? If the sheikh is coarse with him, he takes the initiative to apologize to the sheikh and outwardly shows that the offense is his and deserves a reprimand. This is more beneficial for him in this world and the next, and purer for the heart of the sheikh. It has been said, whoever is impatient with the humiliation of learning will spend his life in the blindness of ignorance. And whoever is patient
Look,
with...
this is true for the student, but this doesn't justify it for the sheikh. Is the difference clear? So this is not saying like, okay, sheikh, it's okay for you to be harsh and coarse and so much more. It's rather, if this were to happen, don't let this stop you from learning. Okay? So it doesn't mean that the sheikh can just do what he wants and that it's okay. No.
And whoever is patient with it will eventually lead to the glory of this life and the next. The student's etiquette encompasses the famous statement from Ibn Abbas, Allah is pleased with them both. I was humble when I studied, so I was respected when I was sought. How excellent is the one who said, whoever does not experience the taste of humility for an hour will spend eternity humiliated.
Allahu Akbar. That's a nice one, isn't it, Asim? Explain that one.
Whoever doesn't taste.
Whoever does not experience the taste of humility for an hour will spend eternity humiliated. Thank you, Khayyan.
Maybe it's to do with arrogance, and whoever has an atom weight of arrogance will not enter the garden of paradise.
No. Here it means if you don't have the patience to be humiliated for a moment by your sheikh, and by him being harsh, then you will be humiliated for eternity in hell. Because what you will be taught, even if it were through this harshness, might save you from hell and get you into paradise. So which humiliation is worse? Once again, not saying that the sheikh has a green light to do so. But if that's the only sheikh that you can study with, like some of the muhaddithin were like that. Yani he would say to the student, Anta ahmaq. He said, Sheikh, why are you so harsh with him? He said, فَأَنْتَ أَحْمَقْ مِثْلُهُ. He said, you are dumb or crazy. He said, Sheikh, this is hard. He said, well, then you are as crazy as he is. So some of the people would be like that, right? Because it's their character and behavior. Alhamdulillah, I didn't have mashaykh. The majority of my mashaykh were not like that. The majority of my shaykh were like very gentle and polite, but always very strict. I only had strict mashaykh. Like if you would be absent without a reason, or you would come and memorize Quran and it was not like 100%, they would just say, go home, don't lose my time. No? But alhamdulillah, I never had that being said to me either. But they were nice. Okay, what do you want to say, Asim?
Yeah, this question. So, if you have a sheikh who's extremely harsh, is there ever a limit to how much?
Harsh or impolite?
Impolite. Like they transgress a lot, but like.
Give me an example.
Like they beat you up or something.
They beat you up.
Yeah. Like.
Okay, let us say in words without the physical beating.
If they're sort of like they're very they denigrate you or not, or they're very critical, but in a very rude and impolite way. They say things, they're constantly putting you down or whatever. Is there ever a limit to how much a sheikh can go? And what would be the Islamic means to rectify that situation?
I think we should divide these students into two categories. You being an adult and a sheikh doing like this, you can make a choice for yourself. If your child, rather, has a teacher like that, it is your responsibility to preserve the psychic, we say, yeah, or the psychological aspect of your child. Meaning this can traumatize a child. When the child keeps on hearing, you're dumb, you can't do anything. Oh, once again, you have forgotten. Oh, what's the difference between you and a donkey? You know, these kind of things. So at the end, the child might be traumatized and have an inferiority complex which has been developed because of you sending him to the wrong people. So there, a parent then should step in and say, I'm not sending my child to that school or that teacher. But as for you, you know what you can take. I can take a lot, for example. If a teacher would insult me, I wouldn't care. No. Is the difference clear?
Yes.
No. But nevertheless, denigrating and insulting is haram also for a shaykh. It's a haram trait. No, it's not halal to do. It's one of the signs of nifaq. إذا خاصم فجر. And if he becomes angry or annoyed, he becomes impolite or insults. It's one of the signs of nifaq. Yes, continue.
Between lessons, the student's etiquette includes his determination to study in
Why didn't you give this a special intonation that goes with the title?
I don't know. Shall I do it?
No, if there is, if it's not too weird, you can.
Right. Between lessons.
Yes.
The student's etiquette includes his determination to study incessantly, or was it how do you say it? Incessantly, doing so anytime the opportunity arises. He is not satisfied with a little when much is possible.
Subhanallah.
Yet he does not burden himself with what is overbearing to him and to feel boredom and losing what he has gained. This varies according to different people and conditions.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you all. Ameen.
If the student reaches the place where the sheikh usually sits and does not find him there, he waits patiently for him and stays close to his door. The student does not skip his daily lessons unless out of concern that the sheikh has an aversion to a given lesson for some reason, since he knows the sheikh's preference for being read to at one time and not another. If he finds the sheikh sleeping or occupied with something important, he does not seek permission to enter.
Like for example, you know that you have to read with the sheikh, right? And you see that the sheikh has eye bags from here until his nostrils, right? And that he's like very pale. You heard that he didn't sleep for ages, or I don't know, that his wife just delivered a baby, so they're in the first few weeks they are very occupied and tired. Then you shouldn't insist, right? You should, out of yourself, you should say, Sheikh today, and you shouldn't say, Sheikh, there's a difference. Sheikh today, if you're tired, we won't read, because then the Sheikh will say, let's read. But if you say, Sheikh, would it be good for you if I don't read today? Then all of a sudden you gave the choice to the Sheikh. Now, is that clear? So maybe said, well, now that you have asked, and I'm quite tired, barakallahu fikum, maybe we will read next time. Is that clear? But just for the sake, because it's a habit, or it is a routine that you have, it doesn't mean that the Sheikh has to do it. Sometimes people have something to do, and then people can become very angry. And this is what we call in fiqh, yani al-haq al-muktasab. You know al-haq al-muktasab?
The attained right.
Which is in itself not a right. So it can be removed at all times. Excuse me?
Like an extrinsic right. It's not right in and of itself.
I'm going to give an example. Yes, exactly. Like for example, I have a neighbor, and my neighbor has a garage, or how do you call this? Driveway. And he doesn't have a car. So he says, my neighbor Sulayman, you can use my driveway or put your car in front of my garage, no problem. I said, Barakallahu fikum. And that goes on for 2-3 years. And all of a sudden my neighbor says, well, from now on, please, I wouldn't like you to put your car on my driveway. So I say yes. So I go home and I think it's normal. I tell my wife, it didn't happen. Huh? I tell my wife, subhanAllah, mashallah, I think the neighbor is going to have a car, buy a car. Oh, really? Why do you think so? Well, because he just told me that I couldn't park the car there. Oh, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him for these 3 years. Yes, mashallah, what would we have done without it? So now, a week passes, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, a month, and there is no car in front of his door. It's empty. So now, all of a sudden, I feel hurt. I feel betrayed. I say, what? SubhanAllah, why did he do this? Maybe he's against me. It's fiqh. Fiqh has nothing to do with being against or not. It's not your parking space. He does with it what he wants. You see? So it's the same thing when you teach, and unless it is a clear agreement. But if it's something that the sheikh says, I teach you, then sometimes you should look yourself and say, we're going to give him a day off. I'm not trying to indirectly ask him and Hisham. But, it's not because it happens all the time that it has to happen. Sometimes the sheikh can say, I have something to do. Or I can't, or I'm tired. And then you shouldn't have carry anything in your heart. Is that clear? Because it's not your haqq unless it has been agreed and that the حقوق بالرضا والقبول and التراضي من الطرفين من غير استثناء ولا قيود يعني it's explicit, then خلاص, then you can ask the Shaykh for your right. Okay, continue.
Instead, he waits until the Shaykh awakens or completes his tasks. Otherwise,
Yes, please, if you see the Shaykh sleeping, don't wake him up, right?
Otherwise, he simply departs. It is better to be
I had
patient.
one of my Mashaykh sleeping while we were reading Quran to him. Shaykh Musa Nasr. He died, subhanAllah, 3 years ago. And Shaykh Saleh died 1 year after him. And he was on his way to Medina. He was one of the people who read it with Imam al-Husari. So anyway, he would sleep while we would read to him. And he would snore. He would sit like this. Like he was quite large, mashallah, at henna in his bed. When he would enter that door, you would smell his perfume and his oils until here. One of his takhassusat was الطب النبوي and al-Quran. So he read the entire Quran with his Shaykh in 9 hours and he only made 3 mistakes. And the mistakes were doubting, not mistakes. Okay, anyway. So now he would sit and snore, like really he was gone. And then would say, بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. He would say, يَفْعَلُونَ. So he would, and I'm not exaggerating, he would be sleeping, he would wake up whenever someone would make a mistake. And he would be sleeping. I had one of the people who taught me Ruqya, which was Sheikh Ahmed Sarrukh, al-Maghribi. So I used to go with him at the beginning when I became a Muslim after Sudan. He would teach me Ruqya, right? And without exaggerating, maybe I said this already, in front of a red light, he would say, wake me up when the light turns green. So we would be waiting, he said, wake me up when the light turns green. I said, okay, he went like this. But it's true. It's like really true, I'm not exaggerating. And then I would say, green, and he would go. And behind, and sometimes, he would do a lot for the ummah. So he would wash the dead and this and that. So when he would go to the pharmacy and ask something, he would sleep while the pharmacist would go and get the medicine and then come back. Like, it was so strange to see. But then I read that Umar radiallahu anhu كَانَ لَا يَنَامُ إِلَّا خَطْفَةً. That Umar radiallahu anhu would only sleep by taking away the moments where there was nothing to do. Like if he were to tell you, can you please get me a coffee? While you would go for a coffee, I would be snoring, you come back, I would be awake. And they asked him about it, radiallahu anhu. And he said, if I sleep during the night, I'm not giving the right to my soul. And if I sleep during the day, I don't give the right to my ummah. So كَانَ لَا يَنَامُ إِلَّا خَطْفَ أَوْ خِطْفَةً. That's it. Okay? So anyway, so these mashaykh, I've seen them with my own eyes. And that's why I believe that the wilaya exists without any doubt. And these people, they would sleep in front of a red light or while listening to the recitation of the Quran. So I think the Shaykh must have been happy when students that didn't make mistakes were reciting so he could sleep for half an hour. Okay, continue.
It is better to be patient, just as Ibn Abbas, Allah is pleased with them both and others were. The student should take it upon himself to strive hard to achieve all he can while he is free of responsibility and energetic, the body strong, mind alert and occupied by few things. Before the hurdles of heroism and high rank come. The commander of the faithful, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, has said, become learned, faqih, before you become a master. Meaning to strive to attain complete competence while you are subordinates before you become masters. When you become masters with the following of students,
yes,
you will be prevented from further learning because of your high rank and numerous preoccupations. This is the meaning of Imam Shafi's statement. Allah is pleased with him. Become a faqih before you become a leader, since when you are a leader there is no path to becoming a faqih.
Subhanallah.
When to study.
And this is why some people and we're going to finish this chapter today. Some people they start teaching when they haven't been taught everything they need. And then this stops them from evolving in their own studies and sciences, and that's the problem. But the reason why this is happening because we haven't got a sufficient amount of teachers today. So those who do this, they are nevertheless rewarded for their effort, but they will see from the moment you start teaching, it becomes very difficult to being taught. Yes. When to study? The student